Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever the fuck you're watching this episode. The Backyard Blitz off season. We are talking about fantasy football, ladies and gentlemen. All right, the first of its kind, just talking exclusively fantasy. We're gonna have the same old as far as the salutes, because that's what this show's about. But we're gonna be talking a little fantasy. This is this off season's been pretty incredible as far as if you're a fantasy football league owner like myself and like Gary. Um, Lots of things to talk about here. So, Gary, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. And yeah, I'm excited. This is kind of a first for us. We've talked a little bit in terms of like player production and stuff, but never really like a fantasy specific topic. So this is pretty cool. Sucks we don't have Mode with us. This was his idea, so we'll shout him out for that. Good idea, Mode. But
Yeah, way
we
to bail.
appreciate the idea. But he's celebrating with the wifey today, so we understand.
That's right. Happy anniversary to Mode. Oh, man. And we have plenty to go into. I want to dive right into the first topic just because I do feel like for me it's my favorite. And that's going to be the must have. Let's talk about the must have. I mean, let's talk about who's going to be my boy Blue this season. And for me, it's going to be simple. Uh, I mean, it's Jamar Chase. Like I feel like Jamar Chase for me is he's gonna put up big numbers. Um, there's plenty of people for the Tiger King to throw that ball to, but that chemistry has been consistent since day one at LSU. It will not change. So I don't expect anything different. And in fact, I feel like some of the improvements we've seen on the offensive line coming in is going to give Tiger King Joe Burrow some more time in the pocket to be able to reach Chase down. We're gonna see 10 for 160, couple tutties. We're gonna see some big numbers consistently from this man. So I have no doubt in my mind that he is going to be a must-have. He's somebody who I would consider. I mean, outside of your running back scrambles in the first, second round, this is somebody who you need to be picking first in the wide receiver pool.
Yeah, for
Gary?
sure. I like that pick. I mean, he was obviously productive last year, lit the NFL world on fire, and he was a supernova really as a rookie. I think that offensive line is twofold. You mentioned it. Burrow's going to have a little more time to sit back there, pick defenses apart, let some routes develop more. Jamar Chase is a very explosive route runner, explosive with the ball, obviously, but he's also a very explosive route runner. We saw in the Super Bowl on the play that Donald got the sack at the end. Jamar Chase is screaming down the sideline wide open. So little more time, they might have won the Super Bowl. Look at that from a fantasy perspective on top of Burrow having more time. You look at what it's going to do for Joe Mixon in that run game, right? And that's going to take some of that pressure off of, they're not going to be able to just blitz. They're not going to be able to just sell out against the pass. They're not going to be able to sit back in coverage in those shells. Jamar Chase in a one-on-one with a single high safety, I give him the advantage all day, every day with that. So I think you're spot on there that Jamar Chase should have a better sophomore season than he had as a rookie. And he was pretty fucking
And that was
unbelievable
nothing to shake a
as a
stick
rookie.
at for sure.
For sure.
Incredible season. I do feel like again the offensive line is the difference maker here. Again, they're going to be able to diversify the kind of football that they play. It's not going to be like a 2-second scramble. He's going to be able to take some. He's going to be able to sit in the gun and be able to make some passes happen. So
To
who's
be
your
able to
pick?
sit back there in his golf cart.
Oh, dude,
I
yeah,
don't know
he's
if you
going to be
saw
able to.
that video or not, but
I did see that. He's going to be able to take some. He's going to be able to take a 7-step drop and kind of like chill for a while. It's going to be
sure,
nice.
absolutely.
Hopefully, maybe he'll get an extra second or two out of it.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be great. He'd be dangerous if he had a little more time for sure. Even
Yeah,
more
indeed.
dangerous. I shouldn't say it
Yeah,
as
no
if he's
kidding.
not. But
No
my
kidding.
pick, I kind of went a little different route here because I feel like as a fantasy owner, you sort of know how that first round and maybe even the second round will play out. It's running backs, it's wide receivers early. You might get a tight end sprinkled in. If you've got a novice fantasy player, they might take a quarterback. Patty Mahomes might be off the board early, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of know how that first and second round are going to play out. So I wanted
Right.
to look at this from the perspective of championships and kind of how they're built, right? And looking at the players that stick out and the players that make a difference throughout a fantasy season, you're looking at guys either in a really late scenario where you find a sleeper or a free agent that you pick up because of an injury, or those mid-round guys, those glue guys that build out a roster. And it's almost like an NFL GM, right? You got to have those guys after the top couple that are going to do something for you. So I looked at average draft position between 40 to 80, and I look at a guy like Adam Thielen, who's been a little nicked up off and on, but he's still been pretty productive. What I really like about what Minnesota's going to do differently this year is the offensive coordinator. They've got Kevin O'Connell coming in. He's familiar with the quarterback there from their time in Washington together. 2, he's a bit more friendly of an offensive coordinator when it comes to the passing game. They had a really weird approach to the offense the last few years. And even still, like Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen were pretty prolific when it comes to just straight fantasy numbers, right? We're not talking on the field here and how people feel about, Cousins and whatnot, but on in the fantasy scoreboard, people know who they are because they've been prolific. And you add to that what I think is going to open up the offense more. Dalvin Cook's going to be operating in space, so guys aren't going to be able to sit on routes. I think Adam Thielen, opposite of Justin Jefferson, is primed for a big, big year this year, a statement year where he says, hey, you guys may have forgotten about me, but I didn't forget how good I am, and I'm going to show you just how good I am. So I think a guy like an Adam Thielen in the middle rounds here between rounds 4 and 8, for your 10-team leagues, and rounds 3 and 7 for your, 12-team leagues, I think that's a guy that can make a difference on a fantasy team, and you could see some teams in the championships with Adam Thielen on their roster.
I think with Adam Thielen, coming back healthy, it just creates more opportunity for that offense. I mean, again, Dalvin Cook, having Justin Jefferson there across the other side, I mean, it's going to create a lot of difficulty because somebody's going to get doubled. And judging by last year and the year before that, it's probably going to be Justin Jefferson.
Right.
And so it creates a lot of opportunities for Thielen for sure. He's probably got a chip on his shoulder. And so I'm sure he's definitely got one to prove. Just an honorable mention for me, and I feel like there has been a little bit of hype that I've seen, on the gram through the sports world for him coming into this year with the recent departure of Davante. But Allen Lazard, you need to be watching Allen.
All a favor.
Dude, you need to be watching Allen motherfucking Lazard. He's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, I think people would be surprised if they went back and watched like a highlight reel of Allen Lazard. He makes a lot of contested catches.
Right.
He's asked to do things in that offense when they had Davante Adams he's either threatening down the field, or he's playing decoy, or he's doing a lot of the dirty work, whereas Davante's getting a lot of that shine because he's scored 100 touchdowns and got 120 catches, and he's getting every target in the red zone. So I think you're right? Somebody's going to get those targets. And I don't see why it can't be Allen Lazard, because it seems that, one, Aaron likes him a lot because he lobbied to keep him around, right? So Green Bay kept him.
Yeah, the chemistry's there.
Right, but he's also talked about exactly that chemistry and how they work and how they see the field similarly, that sort of thing. So I think you're absolutely right that Allen Lazard is a prime candidate for somebody who is gonna slip a little bit in drafts. I don't know that people are gonna trust him. I think people are gonna see Christian Watson as well as is he the rookie that's gonna come in and do it. But I just think that guys like Rodgers, Brady, those old savvy veterans, they trust people that they know and they've worked with. So I think you're right that Lazard's probably going to be the primary target in that offense.
Well, and if you think about the chemistry or the relationship that did happen between Rodgers and Lazard and also Davante, was that, like you said, a lot of Lazard's job was kind of in that receiver proving ground where he's kind of bringing that decoy. He is bringing the defense away from Davante to be able to make those big plays. And now I think Christian Watson's probably going to be saddling up into that position. I think we're going to see situations like that where it's going to be Lazard making these athletic and contested catches, because that's one thing he's fully capable of fucking he's going to shatter your ankles or he's going to moss your ass in the end zone. He's perfectly capable of it.
And the other thing to think about in terms of that, is it Lazard? Is it Watson? Is it somebody else? Think of what Aaron Rodgers is in terms of his care with the football. Right. He's not just going to start winging the ball around because he thinks he can trust a rookie. He thinks he can trust this guy, that guy. Lazard's going to be his quote unquote, not that Aaron Rodgers needs a security blanket, but it's going to be his comfort zone. You know what I mean? Like, and he trusts Allen Lazard and what he brings to the table. And Robert Tonyan's another guy in that offense. So I think you are going to see a lot of focus there on Lazard, and it's going to be a lot of that chemistry, those timing routes, the seeing the field the same way, much like we heard Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford talk about after the Super Bowl. They just see the field the same way. I think we're going to see a lot of that with Rodgers and Lazard.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no doubt there that we're going to see some great ones. Any other notables that you wanted to throw in there before we move on to the next one?
The only one that I looked at and kind of thought about, saying as kind of a must-have is a guy like Derrick Henry, who I think they're going to do a lot more to get him out in space. He's obvious, right? That's why I didn't really want to go that route. But coming off the foot injury, I think there's going to be some trepidation and concern from fantasy owners. But I think they're going to look at getting him out in space so that he's not just taking that pounding between the tackles for 300 carries a season. I think we're going to see him a little more involved in the passing game than we've seen him in the past. And that's not like we haven't not seen him because he can't catch the ball, because he can. I just think this year they're going to focus a bit more on getting him in space and getting him matchups against smaller, DBs and linebackers on the edge, as opposed to just handing it and ramming it straight forward every single time he has the ball.
Yeah, for sure. Justin Herbert, I'm just looking at Fantasy Pros, for example. Lamar Jackson was at the top of this list.
And I think Lamar Jackson is in a prove-it year, too. He wants that big $500 million contract. I think he's going to be out to really get back to form. They're going back to 2 tight ends, too. I know we've talked about that in the past. He operates really well in the middle of the field.
Right.
So they already have Mark Andrews still on that roster. I think they're going to get back to some 2 tight end sets. We could see him back to MVP form after a tough year last year.
This is another one that I actually really appreciated too, just because they're giving some credit to Matt Ryan, which I don't really understand why I like Matt Ryan, but I do. But Michael Pittman is another one to kind of keep an eye on, and I think he was.
I'm very contrarian with all of the Colts weapons not named Jonathan Taylor. I really am.
I think that that's fair.
Yeah,
I mean, there's anything.
If someone's going to break out in that offense and shine with Matt Ryan at the helm, I think Michael Pittman is the candidate.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't trust any of those weapons on the outside.
I don't think that's an outlandish thought, Gary Freese Sr. says, I've lost some confidence in Aaron Rodgers. I get it. I mean, I think that's probably fair, but then again, this man can do ayahuasca and win. So,
yeah, he's up in Machu Picchu tripping balls and comes back and wins back-to-back MVPs. I think that's fair, though, to worry about what Aaron Rodgers is going to be post Davante Adams. But also he's getting older, and I think his priorities seem, at least, that like football is a priority, but it's not. He doesn't seem to take it the same way that some of the other guys do. Like Brady's all football all the time when the season's on. Rodgers is very different than that. I think it's easy to kind of get lost in some of that. The guy's so supremely talented that I'm really curious to see whether he picks, right, a rising tide lifts all boats, or if we start to see what the real impact of Davante Adams was on that offense. So I think it's fair to be a bit cautious about Rodgers' ceiling this year, but I want to see a guy like that, if he can elevate his team around him with less weapons. Obviously, one of the best 2 to 3 wide receivers in football, and arguably the top. Like, I wouldn't argue against somebody who said he was the best wide receiver in football. It's hard to lose that guy.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so let's move on to the must avoid.
Yes, sir. Must stay the fuck away.
And this one's, and perfect with the Gordon Ramsay. This is fine is kind of a personal mentality of mine a lot during my work week. And, and a live look at the Dallas Cowboys there at the bottom right. So who do you have for your must avoid? Who is your number one guy for you?
I thought really hard about Christian McCaffrey, and I just think that's not fair, right? Because it's too easy to dump on a guy because he's been injured every single year. So if you've got the number 1 pick in your draft or number 2 pick in your draft, don't draft Christian McCaffrey. If he slides to you at 6, 7, 8, all in, because his ceiling's crazy, but he's probably never going to play for you. So I went a different route. I didn't want to just take the easy route here. I'm looking at a guy, Najee Harris, who right now is like 7th in running backs in terms of, or 7th overall in terms of average draft position, 5th running backs right now.
I'm kind of shocked that you said that. Really?
So this is my concern. My concern is Pittsburgh's offensive line is not great.
Okay.
Pittsburgh's quarterback situation also not great. They're either going to have Mitch Trubisky or they're going to have a rookie. Hey, Jeff, glad to see you back, bud.
Good to see you, man.
And then I don't know who's going to catch balls, right? I know Deontay Johnson's there, but he's dealing with a little bit of an injury situation right now, plus a contract issue. I don't think he's a $20 million a year guy, and I don't think the Steelers think that either. So I worry about all the distractions when it comes to everybody else on the offense not named Najee Harris. And he's also a guy last year who needed 318 touches just to compete in the running back rankings to be a viable candidate within the running back rankings. I worry that he's going to take a lot of shots in the backfield because that offensive line's not good.
How much of that underperformance in the yards per carry, though, was because of the offensive line?
Absolutely. But, but they're just as bad this year, too.
Right.
I'm with you 100%. And that's why, for me, if I'm drafting in the top 10, I'll say 8. If I'm drafting in the top 8, I'm not taking Najee Harris because I worry about how productive he's going to be able to. Because there were times last year where he was nobody knew about him because he wasn't performing, he wasn't scoring, he wasn't getting yardage because that offense was struggling. They were relying very heavily on the defense. He got a lot of check down points in PPR leagues last year because Ben Roethlisberger was check down Charlie. I think Najee ended up with third most catches among running backs. And that's not, I don't think that's how they're going to use him with their new quarterback tandem in Trubisky and Pickett. Right. I also don't think the new offense is going to be conducive to that. So I think that Najee Harris is going to take a step back this year. If he's there early second round, I'm probably going to take a flyer on him and grab him and just hope that volume kind of propels him beyond what I think he's going to be. But I don't take Najee Harris if I have a top 7, 8, 9 pick.
Okay. Well said. Jeff Carlson says Vegas was pretty good last year.
Yeah.
And I think they're looking at an even better year.
You had the best wide receiver in football.
Yeah.
Hard not to get better.
Hard not to get better. This one kind of hurts to say for me. And I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off and I'm going to say that it's DK Metcalf. And the reason that I say that is
you don't think he's quarterback proof.
One pile of shit quarterback behind center, and then you have another pile of shit behind center.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and they looked good last week. Yeah.
They came out and they wanted to prove a point. Josh was at home playing, coaching in front of his hometown fans, his hometown crowd. Yeah, they put on a bit of a show. Jacksonville looks like a mess. I know Doug Peterson, they say he's doing good things behind the scenes in the locker room there.
Okay.
That team has no fucking talent anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, DK. I'm surprised by that.
DK Metcalf, man.
But I like your point.
And it's honestly, it's no shade on DK. I think this entire season is going to be a disservice to his career. I think it's going to lower his trade value. I think it's going to lower his contract evaluation, even though my man secured the bag.
He just got paid, so I think he's got a little bit of a buffer.
He's got a little bit of a buffer. They better
figure it out soon.
He's got a little bit of a buffer unless he decides, hey, I need to leave, and someone has to buy him out of that big-ass bag. Yeah. And so I think the DK Metcalf for me is the one that I would avoid just because of that quarterback situation is not looking good. And I wouldn't benefit. You're not going to benefit from that. The only time I'm using DK Metcalf is if I'm pulling him. And the thing is he's not going to be on a waiver wire, right? Which is insane to me. But I'm pulling him in a deep round if he's still available. And he is at best case going to serve as a flex option if the matchup is beautiful. Like, and the matchup has to be like they're playing the fucking Jaguars. Like it's got to be a no-brainer. So I don't know.
His average draft position agrees with you because I think in any other season when he's got Russell Wilson as his quarterback, he's probably wide receiver top 8 or 10, but he's 18 right now in terms of wide receivers, and he's going almost at the end of the 5th round in most leagues in terms of their average draft position. So I think you're on, right? I think you're on with that, and even in the top 5 rounds, it might be tough if you look at what Geno Smith and Drew Lock, I know that they're talking about in camp. They like some of the things they're seeing from him, but Drew Lock's a guy that has never lacked for arm talent. It's when pads go on and you start getting guys rushing down your throat, he gets happy feet and gets skittish. The dude, honestly, I would put his arm talent up against anybody in the league, and I bet you he could hold his own because just throwing the football, he probably could drop it in a bucket from 50 yards like most other quarterbacks. He just can't do it when
under
the
pressure
rubber meets the road. Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you look at those quarterbacks you're probably spot on. I'm just surprised because it's such a big name, but I mean, I said Najee Harris, so I shouldn't be super surprised because he's a top 5 projected running back. But I think some guys are a bit quarterback proof, and I think that the Seahawks are going to be behind in a lot of games this year playing against soft defenses. So we might see DK start to get some garbage time stats to pad, but I think that on the surface, I like where you went with that. I can't disagree with you. I just didn't think about it in terms of how bad that quarterback play could be.
The one that I really waffled over, honestly, was Deebo Samuel. Same issue.
Yeah, I don't trust Trey Lance. I trust Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I trust Trey Lance a lot. And I also think that Deebo, they're going to have to start getting away from some of that wide back stuff that they do with him because he was nicked up for as crazy productive as he was last year. He played through a lot. Feet, wrists, shoulder, ribs, all that stuff. So, yeah, for sure. They just paid him. They better figure out how to protect him a little more than they have.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as to see how Deebo performs this year. And yeah, and you're right. I mean, I do believe that they need to be a little bit more conservative with him because if they can hold him off while they secure another quarterback, then they're going to be in great shape. I mean, just, handling the offensive line is not horrible. They've got the tools in place. They just need that. They need that. I mean, fuck, I almost would have liked to see a Russell Wilson there, anyone from the East Division
to stay away from. If I had to name one, it would be any running back in New England from the AFC East. Any running back in New England, because you don't know who's going to be
NFC
what.
East. Antonio Gibson.
I think Zeke Elliott's another candidate for a void.
I didn't know if you meant AFC or NFC, but I'm just
going to go with AFC East, I'll say any running back in New England. NFC East, you're absolutely right. Antonio Gibson. I think they really like Brian Robinson as well. So not only is Antonio
and that
Gibson,
sucks for Antonio Gibson.
It does, but he's had issues.
Fair.
He can't seem to figure out how to run between the tackles. He's a big, fucking 225-pound guy.
Yeah,
he just has struggled. He's struggled to really put his shoulders down and run north-south in between the tackles. But yeah, AFC East, any running backs in New England, another candidate might be Jalen Waddle. I don't know how much they're going to take away from him to give to Tyreek Hill. He's going pretty high because of the numbers he had last year, but a lot of that was bubble screens and slants. A lot of the stuff they're going to do with Tyreek Hill this year. That's another candidate possibly. Don't take him too high, I guess. Maybe not avoid, but don't take him too high.
I don't think there's going to be many leagues where he doesn't go high.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to watch him slip anywhere. So for sure,
it's very true. All right, flying right along here. Let's go into the comeback candidate. This is kind of another one that I had tossed around 4 or 5 different people, just kind of thinking about it. Who, in your opinion, is going to make kind of the biggest shockwave as far as their comeback this year in fantasy football season?
For me, I think this one I had the least amount. Once I narrowed the list down to a few people that I looked at in terms of bounce back, it became really clear to me who it's going to be. It's Allen Robinson. Getting out of Chicago, going to LA with Sean McVay and Matt Stafford and the other weapons being opposite of Cooper Kupp. Mm-hmm. I think Allen Robinson is going to be a stud this year in terms of fantasy. He's a big-bodied guy, really, really good route runner. And in that offense, those are the types of guys that can really, really succeed. So I think opposite of Kupp, he's going to see a ton of single coverage. And if he can get on the same page with Stafford, which it sounds like some of the signs out of camp is that Allen Robinson is excelling within that offense. Stafford's been a little limited in terms of his elbow and not being able to throw a ton.
Yeah, he's old.
I love what Allen Robinson brings to that offense and what I think Sean McVay is going to be able to do with a guy who brings a different element. They haven't really had that guy. Cooper Kupp's kind of he's big-ish, but not a real big body wide receiver. Robert Woods was kind of a small guy. OBJ, for all of his crazy catches in athleticism, he's kind of a small guy too. So I like what a big body like Allen Robinson can bring there in LA. And I think that he's going to be so excited after being franchise tag last year. He's going to be so excited to just fucking be out of Chicago.
I don't blame him, man. That place is toxic, and it's where careers go to die, unfortunately, for the Chicago area. So my bad, folks. I'm not really happy with my pick, but I do feel like, despite how much of a fucking tool bag he is, I feel like my comeback player this year is Juju Smith-Schuster. I feel like the change
really?
of him, I do.
You think he's going to excel over there, huh?
I do. I feel like just purely, if we're gonna focus on not him and his
pathetic, that's a tough.
That was aggressive.
That's a tough word.
That was aggressive. So yeah, no, for me, I think it's gonna be Juju. I feel like he's got a good opportunity here to bounce back. You know, there's gonna be a little less kind of competition in the receiving core with the Chiefs with Tyreek exiting, but I feel like he's I feel like he's going to be able to bounce back this year, and I think Pat's just the right guy to be able to scramble and catch him in a slot route, or I feel like he's going to be able to put up a lot of catches. He may not put up a lot of touchdowns, but he's definitely going to be a guy that's going to put up a lot of catches.
Oof. I mean, technically he's walking, so that's a comeback story, but but anyway,
yeah, going to hell.
If Juju is going to recover and kind of regain some of what he was in Pittsburgh with Antonio Brown on the field, because we saw a precipitous fall when Antonio Brown departed and Juju became the quote-unquote guy in that offense, it's probably going to be in an Andy Reid type of offense or somewhere like that. You know, guys that are real offensive masterminds, Reid and McVay, and, Sean Payton was still coaching, etc. I think that if he's going to succeed, he can in Kansas City, because Kelsey's really going to be the focus of that offense this year with Tyreek gone. Maybe that opens up some things for Juju and some of the younger guys. Mecole Hardman, they're talking about, is supposed to have a big breakout year. Juju's a guy to me that I always thought benefited a lot from like facing the JV squad in coverage because of what Antonio Brown demanded in that offense. And we saw it on the way out the door, right? Everybody was saying AB was crazy, but he was feuding with Juju and said, like, you're no good. And that's been proven correct over the last handful of years since AB left Pittsburgh. So I think that Juju is going to struggle to acclimate to an offense where he's not an important guy, where he could do Instagram, unless he's doing Instagrams with Jackson Mahomes there. But I don't. Yeah, I think Devin, that's a perfect point, right? He's a guy that, to me, it's like I just mentioned with the Patriots running backs. I just don't know. You got to find the right week, right? Is Ramondre Stevenson going to be the guy this week? Well, is Juju going to get 6 catches this week? And is he going to get a touchdown? I think you got to find the weeks where Juju finds a touchdown. I think Juju scores maybe 5-6 touchdowns this year, and you've got to find those weeks. If you find those weeks, I feel like
Juju's I think his comeback is going to lie perfectly in the games where Kelsey's going to get doubled up. It's going to be heavy coverage, and then from there, Pat's got to resort to his options, right? Yeah. And I think that's what I like about that. I think the loss of Tyreek is going to be a lot more difficult for that offense than they realize.
I think they're going to really, really miss Tyreek this year. He's different. He's different. So I want to circle back to the Scary Terry comment. Pathetic's tough because he had 1,000 yards. He's the first Washington receiver in history to have 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Really to, start a career. He had 900 his first year, but technically, he's the most prolific rookie Washington's ever drafted as a wide receiver, really. But it's been quarterback play too, and I think him and Wentz are going to have a little bit of chemistry. I'm not here to say Wentz is going to light everything up, but I think that McLaurin's going to have a pretty damn productive year. I just don't know that I would have called him a bounce back candidate because I look at guys that really struggled last year, and I don't know that I would say Scary Terry did struggle last year. Yeah, I think Ertz is a good candidate there because he's got a full season with Arizona. He was pretty productive for the few games that he played in Arizona, but he really did struggle in Philly because they don't have a quarterback, and they still don't have a quarterback. And I don't care what anybody says in Philly. Jalen Hurts is not an NFL quarterback. I think that's a good choice with Zach Ertz. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities within that offense because of the weapons they have on the outside. The middle of the field is going to be pretty open, especially with Kyler threatening to run. You're muted, Bo.
Thanks. What do you think about those folks that are saying Saquon Barkley is going to be the comeback player?
Nope.
I mean, they don't have any other option. It's going to be the run.
That offensive line is terrible.
Yeah.
I think he is.
Have you seen the video that
I think he's gun shy. Ooh. I do. Saquon, I think, is gun shy. Have
you seen the video coming out of the practice, the training facility where they had straight up fights today? Man was knocked out cold today. It was wild.
It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, I believe McAfee covered it, but it's going viral. It's going absolutely ballistic. And
it ain't good there in New York.
Then one of the other honorable mentions that I heard here, and I kind of liked it. I think it was on a Sports Illustrated article I was reading earlier. Baker Mayfield. I fucking can't get enough of that. That someone said.
Could you imagine though? Like, take the name off the player, right? Could you imagine being the number 1 overall pick to a city that hasn't won in fucking 50 years?
Yep.
Hasn't won a playoff game since the late 80s. Take the team to their only playoff appearance and then win a playoff game. And then the next year you get run out of the building for a guy who's got 26 fucking counts. Could you just imagine what goes through Baker's head?
Yeah,
he's got that person.
He's got as many charges as he has years on this
earth. Crazy, dude. It's crazy. Jeff, I think with Tua, he's got the weapons. If Tua's going to succeed, I say the exact same thing about Tua that I say about Wentz.
This is a fucking prove it year.
Exactly. If you're ever going to succeed, this has to be the year because Carson has the best wide receiver core he's ever had, and so does Tua. And Tua has the confidence of everybody in the locker room of he's the guy and we're going to go with him, blah, 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 because they couldn't get Deshaun Watson. So now they've got to have confidence in Tua, right? But if he's going to succeed, this is the year because they've got the Cheetah, they've got Jalen Waddle, they've got a pretty decent run game, they've got a really good defense. If he's going to succeed in this league, 2022 has to be the year that he turns it around.
Yeah, definitely make or break season for him. All right.
I considered Christian McCaffrey for this too.
I know everybody every year. Christian McCaffrey fans are no different than Cowboys fans.
Right.
This is our year.
It's our year.
And you know what? His ACL says, nah. Got it, bud.
Like he's on a fucking step count. He's on a step count at practice. They don't want him breaking runs off down the field. You know how in all the training camp videos, the guy gets around the corner, everybody taps him, and he runs 60 yards to the end zone? McCaffrey's not doing that because they don't want him sprinting in training camp. That tells me everything I need to know as a fantasy owner. That dude is fucking plutonium, and I'm staying the fuck away.
Every single league that you're going to jump in, he's going to go first round.
He's going to go 1 or 2, right? You got JT, and then McCaffrey's probably going to go 2. Does play the piano, right? He's got magic fingers. We'll give him that. But that doesn't get you fantasy points. Might get you fantasy, but not fantasy points.
Hey, one time. All right. Well, what a great transition into the most important segment of our show, and that is our salute to service.
Shit, I had it. I had it right fucking there in the queue, and then I scrolled up.
Silence, please. This episode is going to be dedicated to Army Chief Warrant Officer 3, Taylor Galvin, who is 34 years old from Spokane, Washington, passed away August 20th, 2018 as a result of injuries sustained when his helicopter crashed in Sinjar, Iraq. He was assigned to Delta Company, 1st Battalion, 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment based out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So, Army Chief Warrant Officer Galvin, we have the watch. Always a tough one.
For sure.
All right, so now that we've managed to butcher that segment, let's jump into our rookie sensations. So, this one, I'll be honest, I struggled to even figure out who I wanted. I didn't really know who I wanted. I didn't know why. This is going to be much more of a shot in the dark for me. However, who is your guy?
Yeah, rookies often are, because it's always somebody, that's off the beaten path that makes a splash. There's certain ones, right? The first couple that are picked off the board, et cetera, et cetera. Jeff's a Steelers fan here, and he's picking Kenny Pickett. I thought last year Kenny Pickett was the most NFL ready quarterback in college, so I could see him taking the snaps after week 5 or 6 and being
You got
fine.
Brian Robinson? Offense. Is that what you're about to tell me?
No.
I'll tell you mine. It's very quick.
I do think, yeah, I considered him. I mean,
I think it's Breece Hall.
He's a complete back. He's a complete back in an offense that's going to use him a lot.
Yeah, they're going to need to.
Yeah.
Who's your guy?
For me, I considered Breece Hall, looked at a few others, but I'm going James Cook. And I said this the night of the draft, the second day of the draft when the Bills drafted James Cook, that he is the perfect fit for that offense. He's big enough that they can hand the ball off to him in stretch run situations. He can cut it up the field, make somebody hurt in the between the tackles here. But I love what he brings in terms of the zone reads and in the passing game. And Josh Allen is going to have the ball in his hands because that's who he is. I love James Cook. I love the fit in the offense. I love his explosiveness. He ran almost the same 40 time as his brother Delvin. I just think that the fit within that offense, if he'd have gone anywhere else, I might have struggled to say that James Cook was going to be sensational in his rookie year. But because of where he's at in Buffalo, I think that James Cook is going to seize the reins there. You'll see Moss and Singletary. Actually, I think Moss might be gone, but you'll see Singletary there as well because they're going to continue to keep him involved in the offense. But James Cook, I believe by week 3 or 4, is going to have seized control of that position in Buffalo, and he's going to be a viable running back in fantasy, top 10, top 12 type running back because of the PPR opportunities that he brings to the table in that offense. You see a lot of Josh Allen a lot of times is moving around, scrambling around, and dumps it off, or working with guys, and a lot of the interior stuff, the zone reads, they run a lot of that. He's going to have a lot of opportunities to touch the ball within that offense.
I love that, honestly. I like that pick because that fit in Buffalo. I mean, it's just too good. The opportunity is prime for the taking. That offensive line is stout. You've got Josh Allen there to be able to make sure that he can dump the ball off to him if he needs to, even if it's just a quick pass or a handoff. But I really, really like that matchup. Have you seen on the social medias the shots that Von Miller's taken trying to shoot his shot to get OBJ in a Bills uniform? So they're going to fuck around and do it again. I love that. I love
recruiting out there, man, for sure.
Yeah. You know what? I was ready to give up on OBJ, and I appreciated the fact that he didn't Kyrie Irving that locker room this year.
Last year. Talia. I'm about to.
Yeah. So that is and we did briefly kind of talk about it. We were more talking about my pick for the must-have, and that's Allen Lazard. I just appreciated that, Davante out of the picture. I think that Lazard's going to have some bright future ahead of him this year. But for me, I think Breece Hall. I think going into this offense, he's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to have plenty of opportunity. They did a lot of things in the offseason that we praised already in our last episode. I feel like this is going to be a good opportunity for him to kind of show up and show out.
He makes so many people miss too. And he's really good out of the backfield as a receiver.
Right.
I think if the Jets focus on him in terms of being the focal point of that offense, he's going to have a lot of success, and they're going to actually have more success than you expect.
Just keep his mom away from that quarterback.
Yeah. Another guy I considered, and I think what steered me away from this is that I consider him more as like a dynasty kind of option here. Romeo Doubs, and I believe that's who Talia mentioned here. Christian Watson is the guy that they took in the 2nd round. They think he's going to have a bright future, but Romeo Doubs, the guy they got in the 4th round, He's the first guy in the fucking building when they start camp. It's unbelievable that, Matt LaFleur even came out and said, like, this is a rookie that has it figured out. He's got a routine, and he's out there showing his ass in camp. Rodgers is talking about him being mature and having a great approach and all that stuff. I love the talk of him out of camp. I just don't know that I can see him in year one based on what I talked a little bit about earlier with Rodgers and the trust factor. I don't know that Dobbs is going to get the targets this year, but I think over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, if you can stash him in a dynasty league, I think he's a guy that could really pay dividends for you in year 2 and year 3.
Yeah, not even just from a fantasy perspective, but I mean, as long as he can stay healthy and continue to train under who he's going to be working with this year, I mean, he's going to be doing great.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Jamar was a guy who surprised a lot of people by being in camp like crazy. So
it's that Mamba mentality, man. They always talked about Kobe
Absolutely.
being the first one in the gym and the last one to leave. My man's opening up the practice facility at 3 a.m. and then not leaving until midnight because, he's got to work on that jab step or whatever it was he was working on. It was just
somebody else somewhere is working, and you better be working too.
You got to be able to, and you got to appreciate that hunger ultimately.
Yeah, for sure.
It's what defines a true champion. I think it's going to be good. All right. Any other rookies you wanted to highlight there?
Not a lot. I think, Jeff mentioned Kenneth Walker. I think he's going to struggle up there in Seattle because they're in a heavy rebuild. Plus, I think they like Rashad Penny to kind of hold down the fort until they rebuild here with the offensive line. So I don't know that Walker's going to get a lot of chances. Could be a dynasty guy. Chris Olave down in New Orleans. Jameis Winston actually had a foot thing today, sprained his ankle. But I think if he stays healthy, a guy like Chris Olave opposite of Michael Thomas has a chance to thrive. I loved him in the draft. I wanted Washington to get him. And speaking of Washington, this is probably the first time and the only time this whole episode I'm going to toot the horn of Washington a little bit. Jahan Dotson sounds like he's going to prove me wrong. I hated the pick. I hated the pick. I double hated it because we traded out of the spot that Chris Olave got picked. But every single indication from every single beat reporter down here in the DC area is that Jahan Dotson is going to be fucking awesome. I guess he's been killing it in camp. I've been watching some of the video and some of the breakdowns. He looks the part. I may be eating my hat on that one. He's a guy that if you've got an opportunity to take him later, you might see him kind of turn things on, maybe a quarter of the way to half the way through the season. So I think this rookie class, we see this every year. It's getting bigger and bigger in terms of the footprint that the rookie classes are having on fantasy. And that has a lot to do with the college game invading the NFL, and guys are picking up the offense quicker. They're more simplistic, those sorts of things. And it's a pass-happy league.
I feel like there's plenty of room at their training camp for you to attend and see for yourself, so you should go.
I don't want the poop pipes to burst on me.
I mean, it's going to happen every fucking Sunday all season, bud. It's going to happen every Sunday all season long.
I'll watch right here from the comfort of my couch.
No disrespect to Scary Terry because he doesn't deserve that.
He does not.
But love me some Scary Terry. So off-season trades.
Olave too.
Let's talk about the off-season and how these trades. What do you think the biggest trade has had the biggest impact? And I mean, we're obviously looking at 3 of them right here with Russell Wilson going to the Broncos, Davante Adams heading over from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer, and then Tyreek Hill lying to people talking about Tua over Patty. Not even once, Doug. Not even once.
Not on his best day.
Broncos country. Let's
ride.
It is. It's Russell Wilson.
That is quintessential Russ, though, isn't it? That whole video where he does it like 7 times.
It's cringe and out of touch.
Right.
So yes, it's identical. That is
Russ.
That is who he is. He said something. There's a series. I mean, I'm pretty sure you could pull up a compilation on YouTube of like all of the cringy shit that he's done. But he says things like, honestly, I think that's probably my pick. But I think I think there's a video, but he called himself Mr. Unlimited like over and over and again, talking about himself being Mr. I just can't fucking deal with this dude.
His videos for Sierra too, like I love that you love your wife and future's kid, but like let's relax a little bit, bud.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. He's so cringe.
Again, it's just he's out of touch.
He is. Absolutely.
He's out of touch. So with that being said, I think personally I can't really deal with Russell. Like I don't even really like praising him because he's so fucking cringy. So with that being said, I am going with Davante Adams to the Raiders. The Derek Carr Davante Adams chemistry is already there. You're just going to respark it. You're going to refresh it from back in the day. And then with that comes this, explosive opportunity for the Raiders this year. I think that to me is going to be the biggest impact. I made the cheap, too easy PG safe route last week of saying that Tom Brady's return to Tampa was the biggest thing in the offseason. It was too easy. Davante Adams to the Raiders to me is going to be the most impactful thing. So, and you touched on a good one too with Allen Robinson.
Yeah, for sure. See, no, I disagree a lot on that. Amari Cooper to the Browns. Dude was washed in Dallas. He ain't going up there and being fucking awesome with Jacoby Brissett. So I don't see it with Amari Cooper. I think that there's some merit there if somebody wants to argue the Cooper thing. I disagree.
I don't know.
What do you think?
I don't necessarily agree with the idea that Amari Cooper was washed per se. I feel like that's a little excessive. So fucking chill out on that. But I think Amari Cooper's biggest problem was his fucking quarterback. That's what it comes down to there. You've got a quarterback who ranks like in the bottom 5 outside of 20-yard completions. So yeah. All right, fair enough. I don't believe that Cooper was washed. I think that was a quarterback problem. I think our fucking 23-year-old quarterback is washed.
Yeah.
So
overpaid.
That's for goddamn sure. So I feel like we covered a lot of these already, so my bad. But who is your off-season impact, do you think?
Look, I considering these 3 main ones and then the Amari Cooper one, I just don't think that really kind of registers on my radar. I have to lean toward Denver in the ad of Russell Wilson because of what they had. And you talked about Drew Lock and how unproductive he was, and their other option, Teddy Bridgewater, wasn't very good. I just think that, Devin, I want to come back to that. So I'm going to earmark that. We're going to come back to that because I think that is something to talk about a little bit more. We didn't really mention the Hollywood trade, but Davante, I think, is going to make a difference there in Oakland or Vegas. But I think the biggest difference he's going to make, because Derek Carr is already a very prolific quarterback in terms of yardage, completion percentage, touchdowns, and touchdowns to interceptions, I think is where it's going to become the biggest difference for Derek Carr in Vegas with Davante Adams, because he's going to have chemistry, a bit of a security blanket. Davante's a guy that you can just go to when you know you need somebody to win a route. Hunter Renfrow as a slot receiver is improving. Darren Waller, obviously. So I think that for me, the level of impact is different with Davante Adams than what I see Russell Wilson bringing to Denver, because Denver's basically been a quarterback away from being in the playoffs the last couple of years. They've got a great defense. They've got a couple of young wide receivers that with a good quarterback could be productive. I think that a breakout candidate, and I considered him for must-have even, is Jerry Jeudy. He's a guy that I think is going to thrive with Russell Wilson because he's a phenomenal route runner, but he's also a burner. And Russell Wilson had a lot of success with 2 guys in Seattle that were very similar in terms of skill set with, Tyler and DK. So I just look at that and I think Russell Wilson is going to make the biggest difference on that Denver team of these 3 trades. I don't think Tyreek Hill is going to make as much of a difference in Miami because I don't think they're going to be able to utilize him the way that they need to. Tua
I don't
just
think
doesn't threaten.
Tua is not going to be able to throw a 60-yard pass that quickly.
He doesn't
it's not
threaten
happen.
the defense the way that Mahomes does with that big ass arm. And there's no value you can put on what Andy Reid does in terms of designing offense.
Cortland Sutton.
Absolutely. All right, so I do want to circle back to this. Hollywood Brown, the trade to Arizona, because Hollywood Brown has essentially not only been buried by the other splash trades, he's been buried by the fact that he was drafted in Baltimore with a quarterback that cannot throw to weapons on the outside.
Right.
Kyler Murray can, and he's shown it. He played well with D-Hop when he was healthy. You know, you look at a guy like Rashad, not Bateman, and now I'm losing the name, but and then Christian Kirk even went and got paid down in Jacksonville and reset the fucking wide receiver market. So Hollywood has an opportunity for his skill set. He has a very specific skill set in the NFL, fast fuck. And a guy like Kyler is going to be able to get the ball to him. In Baltimore, they had a quarterback that didn't know how to utilize him. They also had an offense that wasn't really designed to take advantage of one-on-one matchups and those, you know, mismatches on the outside. So I think he's in a better situation here. I do think that Hollywood has a chance to break out here if he and Kyler can rejuvenate and regain some of that chemistry that they had in college. Because not only are Davante Adams and Derek Carr rejoining forces as, you know, former college teammates, Hollywood Brown and Kyler Murray played together at Oklahoma. I'm with Devin, though, on his last statement there. I just don't have faith in Kyler.
The most fucked up thing about Kyler Murray is not the fact that he doesn't have the ability to be great.
He's talented as fuck.
It is purely his fucking head, man. If he has a tantrum or has a bad day or somebody fucking looks at him wrong or gives him the wrong flavor of Gatorade in his locker, it's going to be a fucking shit show on the gridiron. And it's like, as an Arizona fan, you should be absolutely fucking upset at that. And
I'll tell you the one thing you should be the most.
He's got the team. He's got everything in place to be
great. They've done everything to build around him.
We shit on him for being all of 4'9", but the dude can sling the fucking pigskin and he can scramble. He's got great QB vision, and the only problem with Kyler Murray is Kyler fucking Murray.
Absolutely. What should scare you the most as an Arizona fan and as somebody who might draft Hollywood Brown as a fantasy wide receiver is the team had to include a study clause in his contract and then leaked it. And then he threw a tantrum. And then they said they removed it from his contract. Like, oh, no, we know Kyler's study. Why'd you put it in there? It's a never before seen thing. Like, agents have all come out in flocks and said, we've never seen this before. This is fucking strange. This is the first time we've ever seen something like this. That should scare the fuck out of anybody who's rooting for anything in Arizona. A quarterback who needs to be told you have to study at least 4 hours a week. 4 hours?
I think that this is all just a tactic to keep Kyler in Arizona by scaring him off to other people.
Maybe.
No, I mean, honestly, I think it is.
Mirrors, sure.
I think it is. I think it's a very long and very manipulative process. But I think that's what it is. They're trying to poison the well so that he can't go anywhere else. And I'm not saying that it's not deserved. I'm not saying that he probably shouldn't fucking study. I think he should. I think he needs to put in that effort. I think that there's a reason why the clause is even coming about. Right. But again, I mean, the way that lawyers and people and agents and people are with NDAs and all kinds of shit, there's a reason why this shit leaked. I mean, this is the mudslinging contest never fails, man. It never fucking fails.
Absolutely.
So
it is wild to see how much of a correlation there is between Kyler Murray's game falling apart and the release of Call of Duty. It's unfucking believable how uncanny it is. Gotta get that KD up.
I'm just saying, if the KD is up, the yardage, completions, touchdowns,
way down.
Interceptions on the rise. On the rise. Some other honorable mentions, and we have talked about him throughout the show, but Allen Robinson to the Rams is a great addition on the offseason. We talked about that. Robert Woods to the Titans, I think, is another great one.
That's going to
Definitely.
pay off a little later in the season because he's obviously the injury and whatnot. But I think you're absolutely right. The Swiss Army knife that Robert Woods is, any offense that has it that's worth half its weight and half its salt is going to be able to really utilize a guy like Robert Woods.
You know what? And fuck you if you have a problem with it. Matt Ryan to the Colts, not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, and I think they're going to be better for it.
Yeah, I mean, I do disagree. I've voiced my opinion on that.
That's
I
fair.
do disagree though. I won't rehash.
Yeah, I hope that I'm proven correct, but I don't believe that he is. I believe that he can do it. I believe he can.
Yeah.
I believe in the coach. I believe in that team. I love the culture around the Indianapolis Colts. I think that he's going to be. I mean, he's obviously welcomed there. But yeah, I think just some honorable mention. Chase Edmonds to Miami.
I know nobody wants to hear it, but Kyle Rudolph and Julio Jones heading down to Tampa to play with Tampa. More red zone fucking targets for Tom Brady. Like,
yeah, and bad news for Chris
Jesus
Godwin.
Christ.
Bad news for Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough.
They say he's still the straw that stirs the drink, but
No. His name's Mike Evans. I mean, honestly, his name is Mike Evans, dude.
You're not wrong.
Like, if Chris Godwin can stay healthy for a full season, then sure. I would believe that 100% that he is the straw that stirs the drink. However, his name is Mike motherfucking Evans. So, if Peyton's involved, Matt Ryan's up there, Kirk Cousins.
I could, he's gonna have a lot of field to work with, right?
You should ask Josh about Kirk Cousins. I don't know if you know what his opinion is of Kirk Cousins.
I just don't trust
Stovall.
I just don't trust the weapons in Indy, not named Jonathan Taylor. I really don't.
I mean, ultimately, that's what it's going to come down to.
Matt Ryan spent his whole career with the best wide receiver in football.
One of them. Yeah.
Trying to get me worked up about Cousins.
I can hear Josh cussing from here.
Fuck.
44 million. Anyways.
One parting shot. I do want to.
That was one of my favorite arguments on this fucking entire. I don't know how many episodes we've done now. We've got to be approaching 100. But yeah,
I think we're getting close for sure. Look, one parting shot I do want to put out there. If you're a person that takes two running backs first, and you're looking at the wide receiver pool, and you're trying to find that guy that's going to be your second, maybe third wide receiver, depending on how many you play on a daily basis or a weekly basis, if you're playing one in your flex, etc. Gabe Davis up in Buffalo, who splashed onto the scene in the playoffs. He's big. He runs deep routes. And Josh Allen fucking loves Gabe Davis. If you can't get those top flight wide receivers because you took running backs or you had a bad draft slot, you drew the short straw and ended up at the end of the first round, look at a guy like Davis in the fourth, the fifth. If you can get him as late as the sixth, I'd go after that guy because I think he's going to have a big, big year up there. Buffalo, I think, is going to score fucking 35 points a game. They're just – Josh Allen has a master's degree in that offense. I think that Diggs is going to have a huge year. I think that Cook's going to have a big year out of the backfield, and I think Gabe Davis is going to have a huge year.
I think that Tom Brady's very fucking fortunate that he's in the NFC now. Honestly, because he would never see another. I mean, he would never see another fucking Super Bowl again. I mean that.
Loaded.
I think if he was still in the AFC now, he would never see another fucking Super Bowl again.
Oh,
I mean it. He wouldn't.
Loaded.
That AFC
Christian Kirk, I think, is going to get a lot of targets down there in Jacksonville. I don't love the guy, but I think he's going to get a ton of targets. But yeah, the AFC is so loaded, especially the AFC West, but all across the AFC, really.
The AFC West, dude. Come on. All of them.
That's four teams that honestly
could go to the Super Bowl.
It wouldn't be a stretch to say that they could end up in the Super Bowl.
It is not. It is not beyond a reasonable doubt.
We haven't talked about Chargers at all tonight, and they added a bunch of fucking talent in the offseason. A ton of it on defense, but a ton of talent to that team.
Right.
Crazy.
And also, you've still got Justin Herbert, who's young and improving. I have no doubt he's going to be an absolute stud.
Right. Absolutely. Whew.
Did we cover all the topics?
Yeah, we hit
I
them
think
all,
we
bud.
did. Damn it,
A little
dude.
shorter week
Look at
this
this,
week.
right at an hour.
Yeah,
Not
a
bad.
little shorter week this week.
Damn it, bro. We're out here doing it big.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. That's what it is. It's Andy that's long-winded.
That's not fair. He's not here to defend himself.
Love you, Andy.
Oh,
Happy
shit.
anniversary, my man. All right, man.
Look, I think Higgins, that's fair around that area, 4, 5, 6. But I think if you can get Gabe Davis, I think he's going to give you similar, if not more, value than a T. Higgins.
Really?
I do. I do.
Hmm.
I do. I'm targeting him. I'm letting anybody who's in my fantasy leagues, I'm letting you know right now. I'm targeting Gabe Davis there in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. So if you don't want me to get him and win the league,
You're so lucky I'm not in your dude. I would take him out of spite. I would take him first round out of spite.
It is not the year of Saquon. I can promise you, it is not the year of Saquon.
It is not. It's the year of Saquon's other ACL being fucking blown out.
That's tough.
Yeah.
I don't trust that O-line. I don't trust Daniel Jones to take any pressure off of Saquon.
I don't trust Daniel Jones to even snap the fucking ball, let alone like run with it or pass it.
Tripping on blades.
Definitely cannot let him run it. Do not let him run that ball.
What's amazing is that he has like 4 of the 6 longest runs by quarterbacks in the last like 3 years.
Is it really?
But he just trips on himself all the time going to the end zone. Yeah, he really does. He has like
awkward,
4 to 6 or something crazy
white
like
dude.
That, dude. Like you would think Lamar Jackson,
right.
Kyler Murray, maybe Josh Allen, but like Daniel Jones has he has a ton of long runs in his career. It's insane.
I would have never thought that.
Yeah. He's like sneaky athletic. You don't think about him as an athletic guy. He's sneaky
that's
athletic.
The thing is that I don't
like a 4.7 or something. 4.6,
I don't question his athleticism. It's just that, like you said, he's fucking clumsy. Like he's
clumsy as shit.
I don't understand it. Like you would think he has like an equilibrium problem or something. Like he's
something. He just gets his head too far over his feet.
That fucking yeah, dude.
Like a fucking toddler. His feet can't keep up.
There's an old lady that walks in the park where I live at, and she's one of them types that as she's walking, she's leaned forward the whole time.
No. Oh,
that's Daniel Jones in a nutshell.
Yeah,
it's just
playing catch up.
You know, physics are just not in his favor as he says he's moving. If we're just going to talk about the momentum, the angle, it's just not great.
Yeah, for sure.
Speak for yourself. I can catch the shit out of a football. I can catch a football. I can throw one. I'm always good for a good 30 yards. It means I could play football for Dallas. I mean,
you could start for the Dolphins.
I could start for the fucking Cowboys, dude. Are you kidding me? Dak's not good past 30 yards.
Oh man, AJ Dillon, he's just buried behind Aaron Jones. I thought last year, Aaron Jones was going to depart Green Bay.
I thought that was going to be his breakout year.
And I thought AJ Dillon was going to be the guy. He's buried behind Aaron Jones. He just doesn't get enough run. I think he's a great running back. I thought, honestly, the pick out of Boston College when they got him, I thought it was a great pick. I think he's a great running back. He's just buried behind Aaron Jones.
Right.
You can see an A.J. Dillon leave Green Bay maybe in a year or two. I think his contract's up after this year or something like that. So he could depart Green Bay and go somewhere and be the guy. And I think he'd be a great addition to a lot of rosters in the league.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he has a good year this year, he'll still be able to get that, stock value up there.
Yeah, I just think it's not going to happen in Green Bay because of Aaron Jones.
Right. All right. Well, I think this is going to bring this episode to a close. Not bad, an hour and 5. Damn it, dude. I don't remember the last time we had an episode this short.
This is probably the last one for the season.
Yeah, it's only because it's fantasy only.
Yeah, for sure.
Any closing thoughts there, Gary?
Yeah, closing thoughts. Make sure you get the guys that are going to dominate in terms of touches. Look at what volume's expected to be. Don't guess, right? Don't guess. in terms of, I think this guy's going to do this, because you're going to miss. New England, you don't know who's going to start there. Don't start guessing that Ramondre Stevenson, who should be the guy, don't start guessing that he's going to be the guy, because you never know. Josh Jacobs, beware. Josh McDaniels is not a guy who's going to give Josh Jacobs 200, 250 carries, 250 touches.
Yeah.
Look at a guy like Javonte Williams out in Denver. They're phasing Melvin Gordon back, and Javonte Williams broke the most tackles per carry last year. He's a fucking impossible guy.
I just never thought that we'd see that as like a thing.
Impossible guy to tackle.
Come back over that.
And he's going to be the guy. So my parting words of wisdom to you, Gabe Davis and Javonte Williams will win you a title.
Damn. All right. And my closing thoughts are very simple. It's we're going to be here every single Tuesday at 7:30 Central Standard Time, 8:30 Eastern. Please be sure to check in with us. We are live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, the whole works. We appreciate you guys tuning in to the Blitz. We appreciate you guys talking fantasy with us. Maybe we'll try to incorporate some fantasy segments into our show once the season gets started, talking about some hot or nots and whatnot. But anyways, Gary, always a pleasure, brother. And for those of you guys that have watched with us, thank you so much for tuning into Backyard Blitz here in the Offseason Fantasy Sports Extravaganza. Raul Herrera, Gary Freeze, we are out of here.